What's up, historians, and welcome to the Gaia Earth Club podcast, His Story. Today's episode is called The First of Us. Isn't that such an immaculate title to a podcast episode? I sat there and I thought about it for like 30 seconds and I was like, that's it. Some things just happen fast. You know what I'm saying? But today's episode number 3, and I'm feeling good today. And we're going to get into some valuable knowledge and some valuable lessons about the beginning of humanity. Some of the myths that we will discuss will hold so much valuable knowledge, especially when we get to the end and we can piece everything together. It's really going to hit. I know it is. But like I said, this episode is called The First of Us, where we will discuss the human creation stories and we will seek out some valuable knowledge and valuable lessons that we can gain. So, without further ado, let's get into it. All right. So, many of us, we know the modern or biblical creation myth that started with Adam and Eve. But many of us have also heard of the scientific stance on human creation based on humans belonging to a primate family and evolving over time to become what and who we are today. But do you know the mythology versions? And like I said, we're not going to go into all of them, but we're going to go into some of them that I think, I mean, they are some of my favorites, but I think that they are very prolific. You'll see the similarities that we still hold today, in our view of where we started as humanity. But basically, let's go ahead and have a peek into some of these stories revolving around human creation. So first, we'll start with how, and then we will move to why, which we may have to use our own mind power to guess that, but I will give you my perspective as to why, and always feel free to make your own assumptions. You can listen to me, you can listen to everybody you want to. I listen to a lot of people. I get a lot of knowledge from a lot of astounding researchers, a lot of mythologists. Why I can't ever think of the people who dig and find stuff. The archaeologists, geologists. I could name a lot of them, but I'm not gonna go there. Freak it. I love Graham Hancock. I love I love Billy Carson. I love Ivy Loeb. I love Randall Carson. A lot of people that I really love to listen to when it comes down to this type of stuff. But the mythologies that we're going to discuss, they're pretty popular, but some people may not know it still. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start with the Greek mythology, human creation story. So Greeks didn't just have one understanding of human creation. I mean, most mythologies don't, but we are going to We're going to point focus to the most popular understanding, which involves Prometheus. But I will just mention the others honorably and make it short and sweet. And just to let you know, if you see my eyes dart this way or dart that way, but if I dart this way, that way, that's just me. I cannot keep a consistent eye contact when I'm talking about something that I'm interested in, but when they dart this way and I'm just, I'm actually looking at a sheet that I created to keep me on topic, because I will dive off and start talking about a million trillion other things that might or might not have nothing to do with this. But let's go ahead and go into it. Honorable mentions. Instead of one act of creation, Hesiod described 5 successive races of humans. So, first is the Golden Age. This is the ideal carefree beings under Cronus. And if you don't know who Cronus is the father of the Titans and gods. Gaia created Cronus to basically be a partner, and they had offspring, which were the Titans, the Hecatonchires, and the Cyclopes. And yeah, that's Cronus. You can go and look it up and see all about Cronus. Father Time. But hold on, no, that's Uranus. That's Uranus. I'm talking about Uranus. God, I'm sorry about that. When you learning about all this stuff, it's so many names and stuff that you can get it twisted up. Cronus is the son of God. Cronus was a Titan. Cronus is Zeus's father. That was the son of Uranus and Gaia, and Cronus is basically Father Time. So the Golden Age is first. This is what Hesiod described as basically I'm guessing the best humans, the best time for humanity. Ideal, carefree, just living it up. Then after the Golden Age, we move on to the Silver Age, where humanity becomes childlike and foolish and gets destroyed by Zeus. And we'll go into that. And then we move to the Bronze Age, where humanity is warlike and violent and led to the destruction of their own selves. Then we move to the Heroic Age. We have semi-divine heroes like the heroes of Thebes and Troy, like Heracles, Orpheus, and Theseus, many more. But those are just some of the most notable. And then we move to the Iron Age, which is Hesiod's present day, full of hard labor, injustice, and declining civilization. So here humanity declines over time, morally and spiritually, but growing in ideology and technology, which we can kind of, I guess, look at how our day is today. I mean, yeah, people, we do have a spiritual essence to us, but we are so driven into what's going on the screen or what's going on the outside rather than the inside, which you can't be mad at, because that's the day that we live in today. It's going to take a collective cooperation of humanity to change that. So they clearly have a high belief in the gods. It justifies this thought process, which I'm not saying is wrong. Clearly a high belief in the gods, because we as humans may decline in a spiritual manner as we advance technologically. So that's Hesiod's 5 successive races. But let's move on. We have the Orphic tradition, a mystical religious movement which offered a more cosmic and spiritual story of human origins. So after the Titans killed and dismembered the god Dionysus Zagreus, which we will learn about him sooner or later, Dionysus Zagreus is a form of Dionysus. Zeus destroyed them with his thunderbolts, basically. From their ashes, a mixture of titanic wickedness and Dionysian divinity, humanity was born. So we have, let me explain that a little bit. Might not make sense to people who don't have any insight into it. So like I said, Cronus was a Titan, Rhea and a lot Atlas. So the Titans went to battle against the gods, or you could say the gods went to battle against the Titans in the Titanomachy. That is a story of where the gods took control over everything basically. And the gods are the offspring of the Titans. basically just the offspring of Cronus. As far as I can think right now, I'm pretty sure of Cronus and Rhea. But that's basically what it is. That's the Titans. That's why they say Titanic wickedness, because this was a time of the gods. And I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was still some worship of the Titans, like especially probably Cronus in certain parts of the land. But in essence, the Titans were seen as wicked, which Cronus was. He swallowed all of his kids except for Zeus, because Rhea protected Zeus and got away. Zeus got away, and he came back to avenge all of his brothers and sisters. Dionysian divinity. That's basically the god like aspects of humanity. Yeah. So humans carry a dual nature, like I just said, Titanic, which means violent, selfish, destructive in that time frame, and Dionysian, which is the divine spark, the immortal soul, the yearning for purity. This version influenced later ideas about the soul's imprisonment in the body and the need for purification. We still see a high value in the gods for this thought process, in which I am not saying is wrong. Like I said, nothing is wrong, nothing is right when it comes to this kind of stuff. This is what they believed, and some people may still believe it today. Let's move on to Prometheus, the main story that we want to look at and discuss. So Prometheus was the god of foresight. Yeah, the god of foresight. And he was basically the cousin of Cronus, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or the cousin of, they all cousins, but yeah, Prometheus was really a titan, to be honest. I think he just helped the gods in the fight against the Titans. If I'm not mistaken, how Prometheus did something and Zeus was like, all right, you cool, we ain't gonna do nothing to you. You know what I'm saying? But I still don't like you. So, or he just still had a little bit of, a little bit. You can't, just like if somebody trade on, if it's a war and one of the opposing members on the other military or force comes over and says, hey, I don't like those guys, I'm going to give you intel on how, blase. But of course you would be like, okay, you can give me that intel, but if you switch on them, you trade on them, of course you might do the same thing to me. So you cannot be trusted. But you cool until, it's like until you're guilty. So the Titan Prometheus, like I said, whose name means forethought or foresight, shaped the first humans out of clay and water. He carefully molded their bodies, and Athena breathed life, which is like psyche, into them, animating the clay, basically giving them consciousness. There isn't a widely agreed upon reason as to why humans were created in Greek mythology, but a popular belief is that humans were only created to worship, sacrifice, and show the gods reverence. This view can be backed up with the trick at Mycenae, when the gods and the mortals met to discuss how sacrifices should be divided. Zeus wasn't a big fan of mortals from the start, but these were Prometheus's creations, so he valued humans extremely. But at the meeting, Prometheus prepared a sizable ox and cut it into portions, covering the good meat in an awful looking fashion, but making the bones and fat look delicious to the eye, but worthless when eating. So Zeus chose the fat covered portion, and the gods were forced to receive that share for the rest of the future sacrifices, while humans kept the good meat. In Greek civilization, a lot of times they would sacrifice the basically uneatable parts of the meat to the gods, and I mean, I guess that's why, because at that meeting right there, that sealed the deal. They would sacrifice like the fat, the bones, stuff that they just wouldn't. I mean, they wouldn't eat. So Zeus angrily, after that, Zeus was angry. You would be too. You know what I'm saying? If you getting bones and stuff, nobody want that. But Zeus angrily took fire away from man at that point. But after Zeus took the fire away, Prometheus brought fire back to man without Zeus knowing. When Zeus found this out, he had his son Hephaestus. Well, no, I don't think it's like his stepson or something. I can't fully remember. Had to look that back up. But when Zeus found this out, he had Hephaestus craft the first woman named Pandora and sent her to the humans to live among men with the box that was forbidden to open, basically. She was forbidden to open that box, but her curiosity got the best of her, and she opened the box, unleashing disease, sorrow, and all the evils of the world upon humanity. As for Prometheus, Zeus had him chained with unbreakable chains on Caucasus Mountain, where he was tormented day and night by a giant eagle tearing at his liver, but never to die. Just imagine that. Just imagine you chained on the mountain and this eagle just, That sounds painful. So, you may ask, why did humans not place Prometheus at their pinnacle of worshiping? I mean, he was the reason that they have anything. Zeus probably would have, put that on them, the hammer on them, dropped the hammer on them. If it wasn't for Prometheus, he probably would have destroyed him. So, you may ask that question. But let's look at this from Hesiod's view. Hesiod saw Prometheus as a self-serving trickster that got humanity punished for his own selfish reasons. You might think, how could Hesiod really think like this? Well, let's take a look at some of the pieces and put them together. Honestly, it's just halves. So, Zeus is the king of the gods, the most powerful of all, and clearly doesn't have a great love for humanity. If you believed you were under the rule of a god like this, why the heck would you ever say anything bad or oppose that god? You want to please this being. You don't want to end up like Prometheus on Caucasus Mountain. Yes, it's a bit of a coward move to, worship somebody that basically doesn't have any consideration for you. But we see that in Greek life, it was more about appeasement, fear, and respect to the gods than affection or actual love. So, being that Prometheus had no connection to how the Greeks would be able to enjoy their day-to-day lives as far as rain, crops, or physicalities around them, not to mention he had been punished and he couldn't do anything to save himself. They had no reverence toward him, but they possibly did still love him. Also, Prometheus was a Titan, like I said, and around this time, the Titans were not really sought after to be worshipped, and especially in the new coming of age where the gods are the almighty beings after they overthrow all of the Titans. And there we have the story of Prometheus, the main Greek human creation story that most are familiar with. Now, let's move on to the Egyptian human creation story. Just like Greek, there are a couple Egyptian human creation stories, but the most popular is probably the Heliopolitan myth, but I will mention the others, making it also short and sweet, only because I feel they are interesting as well. The Memphite version is more of a philosophical stance on human creation. In this version, the god Ptah creates everything through thought and speech. He conceives all beings in his heart and mind, and then speaks them into existence through his tongue, which is a word. Humans, along with the gods, are thus the result of intellectual and verbal creation. Humanity is spoken into being, showing the power of divine consciousness and language. That's the that's the Memphite version. The Memphite is pretty popular. I don't know if it's more popular than the Heliopolitan myth. Ptah is the creator in the Memphite lookout, but the Memphite version is a more philosophical stance, like I said. Let's move on to the Elephantine myth, involving Khnum, the ram-headed god, as the creator. Khnum is described as the divine potter. He shapes each human on his potter's wheel from clay taken from the Nile. Once molded, he places the figures in a womb to be born, or gives it to Hecate, the frog-headed goddess of childbirth, who breathes life into it. This is similar to most of the human creation myths you will naturally hear because of the actual molding of human beings being done. That's basically the Elephantine myth. That one is popular, but like I said, I don't think it's more popular than the Heliopolitan myth. So let's move on to the Heliopolitan myth. Humans were said to be born from the tears or sweat of Atem. When Atem wept, his tears fell to earth and humankind was born. Once humans were created, the gods established Ma'at. There isn't much to this one because that is just what it is. Humans emerged from divine emotion, not mechanical will in this, rather than being formed by clay or life breathed into them. They just come from the tears of Atem. They are basically the feeling of the divine given form. This myth is interesting, even though it was pretty short. It's interesting because it's not like most that you would hear. Like I said, being that humans come directly from the god figure. Most of the time, there is some kind of craftsmanship that takes place, like the Elephantine myth. But this myth seems to point more of a focus to the divine essence that humans have rather than the world parts. Tears can reflect joy or sadness and even anger. So being that humans formed from tears can focus more so to our connections than more so our body parts, like what connects us to divinity. There is a chance that this myth describes humans as just an emotional extension of the consciousness in the cosmos, which is pretty interesting. But the most important matter is the establishment of Ma'at. Ma'at was basically established in essence to keep humanity under control, a much less harsher way than the Greek gods, but still an interesting concept. Because Ma'at means order or balance, and humans can fall into chaos or divine order. So it was basically like a guiding principle for humanity. One interesting story that we can get from the Ma'at book is when Ra, who is basically Atem, I could go in. Ra is Atem, basically, so I might say Ra, might say Atem, but Atem turned on humanity at one point as they started to speak against him and mock his authority, which is described as straying away from Ma'at. So he sent Sekhmet to destroy most of humanity. At this moment, he would mark the end of divine closeness to humanity and ascend to the heavens, even though the story tells of Ra or Atem regretting his decision to cause this to humanity. It does contradict the essence of God's upholding to divineness and Ma'at themselves, showing that they also were capable of destruction just as the humans were. Oh, that's a very interesting myth. Like I said, it came from the tears of Ra. That's 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 pretty different than most of them. But in ancient Egyptian culture, there was a lot of freedom of thought. To be honest, they had a lot of different traditions that each part of Egypt would hold valuable as to their gods. Let's move on to the Sumerian human creation myth. This is one of my favorites. I love this whole story. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I love Sumerian. In the earliest days, heaven and earth were still united. There were only gods and no humans. The world was fertile, but it required labor, digging canals, growing crops, and maintaining order. The younger gods, called the Igigi, were assigned all the hard labor by the older gods, the Anuna or Anunnaki. That's what the older gods were called. The younger gods were called the Igigi. So they dug riverbeds, raised embankments, carried baskets of soil for eons, ages, whatever. And eventually they grew tired. They got tired of it. They grew weary and they rebelled. They protested in the streets. They said, we ain't working like this no more. While y'all get to sit up there and just tell us what to do, eat, get fat, and we gotta be out here working. What does that sound like? So they marched to the home of Enlil, the chief god. Enlil ain't play. And surrounded his temple. And like I said, they protested. They started shouting for change. They stopped working. They said, we're not going to do this anymore. Something got to change. This ain't fair. The higher gods, the Anunnaki, started to panic. They was like, they out there rebelling. We can't take all of them. If they come in here, what we gonna do? And they ain't working. We ain't gonna be able to eat ourselves without them. So Enlil called for advice. Ea Inki, sometimes called Ea, sometimes called Inki, the god of wisdom and fresh water, proposed a revolutionary solution. Inki proposed creating a new being. The new being would take over the physical labor and provide offerings so that the gods could live in comfort. Inki's mother, Namu, which is the personification of the cosmic sea, similar to Nun in Egyptian, was asked to help. She brought forth clay from the depths of Apsu. Apsu is the fresh water, basically, beneath the earth. But she brought forth clay from the depths of Apsu, and Inki and the birth goddess Ninhursag. I can't ever say that. Ninhursag. Sometimes Ninhursag, if that's how you say it. Ninhursag is called Ninma or Aruru, I think. They shaped the clay into the first humans. The clay represented earthly matter. The god's blood represented divine intelligence and spirit. The goddess Ninhursag formed the figures of clay while other birth goddesses assisted. So she formed the figures, and it was a whole other team behind her forming too. They was working in that thing. They like doing what they got to do. So the first humans were weak. So Inki adjusted their design, shaping their limbs, giving them breath, and strengthening their hearts. The goddess of birth, Nintu, placed the clay figures in her womb and birthed humanity. The first humans were called Lulu, literally meaning mixed one or laborer. Once alive, humans took over all of the Igigi's responsibilities. The lesser gods, they took on all that heavy work as far as farming, irrigation, building temples, offering food and drinks to the Anunnaki, to the higher gods, and I guess to the Igigi too. They said, hey, y'all can use them too. No, they're just little clay figures. But the gods rested for the first time after that since creation. The gods rested for the first time after they created humanity. Humanity's duty was basically to serve, feed, and honor the gods. The reason civilization existed in Sumerian thought is based on these characteristics. So that's a very interesting, and hey, the story get better than that. If you ever get a chance, go read some Sumerian mythology. It's some good stuff. So now we'll save the rest of that story for another episode, even though I want to keep on going on it, but we'll save the rest for another episode. But as you can see, humans were created in this myth the same way that we see in Greek and Egyptian myths, with a divine essence and clay. Interesting. It seems that the ancient Sumerians were a bit more straightforward with their belief of servitude to the gods. Stating that they were created solely to serve the gods is more direct than you will hear in most myths. And that's pretty interesting, considering that Sumerian is one of the oldest recorded mythologies. But yeah, that's a very interesting story. I will talk about it more at some point, but hey, go ahead and go read up on that if you can. That's a pretty good story. Now let's move on to the last myth that we will break down. The Dogon myth. It's a good one too. In the beginning, there was Amma, the supreme god, or Amma, the divine intelligence, the one both male and female. Amma existed alone in the void, containing all potential within himself. He was both order and possibility, symbolized as a round egg of the world, the cosmic egg. In this egg were all things: the stars, the sun, the earth, the ancestors, the seeds of life, all waiting to unfold. The cosmos does not begin with chaos here, but potential. It seems that from this primordial egg, Amma created 4 elements: air, fire, water, and earth, and arranged them in balance. Then he created 2 pair of twin beings, male and the female counterpart, called the Nomo. These were amphibious spiritual beings, part human, part serpent, part fish, who lived in both water and air. Interesting. That's pretty, I'm gonna go off topic, I don't care. That's pretty interesting, because if you ever dive into some alien talk or past alien way back, even past this, maybe in the midst of this mythology, but even past some ancient times, and they start talking about the reptilians and these reptilian beings and stuff. So that's pretty interesting. But the Nomo represent the life force, order, and the sacred word. They were the first souls of the universe. According to Dogon oral tradition, the Nomo descended to earth in a great ark made of clay, an object shaped like a shining, spinning vessel. That's basically a spaceship. I mean, I don't know how it sounds like the spaceship that you basically draw. Or, I mean, might not be that, but that's what it sounds like. It could be like a little ball just... But... Or like Dragon Ball Z when Vegeta came down to Earth and spinning and stuff. But it was an ark filled with the seeds of life, plants, animals, and the essence of humanity. It landed upon earthly waters from which land and life would later arise. The Nomo emerged from the ark, bringing rain, fertility, and sound, the elements of rebirth. The Nomo, carrying the divine essence of Amma, formed the first humans from earthly clay, mixed with the Nomo's own life force. There we go again. The sacred water and blood that had purified creation. That's the Nomo's own life force, basically the sacred water and blood. I probably said that without a period or something because I let my emotions take control of me. But the first human beings were twin souls, male and female, symbolizing balance. Later, Amma separated them, creating man and woman to reflect the duality of creation. Sun and moon, day and night, sky and earth are all also examples. Each human received 3 parts: the body, the breath, the soul. The Nomo are 8 beings, not just one. After shaping humans, the Nomo became the teacher of humankind. They taught the first people how to cultivate the soil and grow crops, how to weave cotton, make clothing, how to build homes, and how to perform rituals, music, and dance, and maintain cosmic order. I keep saying he because Nomo, I be saying Nomos and stuff, but they also gave symbols and numbers, the foundations of the Dogon astronomy and metaphysics, basically. The Dogon, if you go read about them, they knew some stuff before modern day scientists knew these things, which is very, very interesting. Go check out the Dogon. The Nomo taught man to speak, and through speech, man became the image of Amma. The Nomo's descent is not only about creation, but also about responsibility. Humans were given knowledge to keep the balance. Humanity's purpose is to continue the Nomo's mission to bring order, fertility, and truth into the world. For reference, balance was interrupted through rebellion of one of the Nomo, which is named, the name for this Nomo is Ogo. Among the first beings within the cosmic egg, Ogo, described as the pale fox or the pale fox spirit, one of the male Nomo twins, but unlike his twin, Ogo was impatient and restless. Driven by impatience, Ogo broke out of the cosmic egg prematurely. By doing so, Ogo disrupted the balance of creation. The 4 elements became unbalanced. The symmetry of heaven and earth was disturbed. Time began because perfection was no longer eternal and still. So that caused time to begin. He carried away a piece of the cosmic placenta that he burst out of, basically the divine material of creation, and used it to form his own false world. Ogo descended into the unformed world and tried to replicate Amma's creation. But because he was acting alone and without his female counterpart, the work was flawed. His world was barren and lifeless. His actions distorted the pattern of creation, making it asymmetric. That's interesting. He could not create true life because he had lost the creative word, which was the Nomo's power of divine speech. When Amma saw the disturbance, he understood that his creation had been violated. The perfect order was broken, the cosmic symmetry, the twin pattern, it was all shattered. So Amma cast Ogo down to earth. Thus Ogo became the pale fox, the spirit of disorder, solitude, and trickery. He was given the role of the messenger of chaos, the one who reminds creation of its imperfections. But to restore balance, which Amma ain't just finna sit around, ain't gonna do nothing, finna fix this. So to restore balance, Amma sacrificed one of the obedient Nomo twins, the pure one who remained faithful. From his body came the stars, the rain, the plants, the renewal of life. The sacrifice Nomo became a redeemer, basically balancing what Ogo had done with divine harmony. So the sacrifice of that Nomo put everything back into place. After being cast out, Ogo wandered the earth as, or still wanders the earth as, what they call now, the name now is Urugu, the pale fox trying to repair what he broke, but he cannot. He steals things, he lies, imitates creation, but everything he makes is hollow. He is also searching for his missing twin, the female counterpart or principle that would make him complete again. Ogo is forced to wander the earth endlessly. So, I told the story of Ogo after I told the story of human creation, because I didn't want to start with Ogo's part first, even though Ogo was a part of why humans were created. Basically, that's what led to everything, that chaos that broke out. Balance had to be restored. So we still seem to get the same human creation myth of divine essence and clay in this myth also. In this one, we can see that humans were more so created to basically as a restoration of balance, which is pretty interesting also. So there are many more myths that have a similar human creation story, but the commonality that we see in these myths of human creation is something I guess I have said about, I don't know, maybe 20 times on this episode, which is humans being formed from clay and given a divine essence. But what does this mean, and why is it important? Some people may believe that we are only here to worship. Some people may believe that we're just here. No specific reason as to why, but we're just here, and that's just the way of the universe. From an ancient point of view, of these myths that we read, and many more that I did not touch, describe us as being placed here for a purpose. Whether that purpose is to serve the gods, worship, or just simply maintain cosmic balance, the ancients believed in purpose. Now, I'm not one to put validation toward any of this, because I can only speak truly from my perspective and you yours. But through my research of the past and today, much has not changed in the ideology of our purpose for being here, based on religion, science, and philosophy. Because the truth is, it is from one's own perspective. See, existence is a mystery to us, but that is the beauty of it, because the ability to question it is what gives us meaning and reason to keep seeking further information. I mean, some people may think they already have it all figured out. Scratch that. A lot of people may think that they already have it all figured out, through modern day religion maybe, or through philosophies that we have. Sorry. Oh no. My eyes just getting, whew, I don't know. My eyes just getting like watery. I don't know why. Sorry about that. Maybe I'm being touched right now. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I don't know. I'm just like this. I don't know why. But like I said, some people might think they have it figured out through their own modern day philosophies or modern day religions. The ancients thought that they had it all figured out to an extent, but what happened to them in their culture? They were all washed away and had to begin, or they didn't have to begin nothing. A new just began, a whole new tradition, a whole new philosophy, a whole new civilization started to take place. a new religion, new traditions. Like I said, not because they couldn't keep record, but because they basically were dispersed because they all thought that their way was right and nobody came together. Um, the myths that I just told and the religion and stories that we have today do differ, but very faintly, to be honest. I mean, it's barely a difference because all have the same beginning and the same end, just told in different ways. The world is created. The God comes and gives knowledge to humanity. The God leaves. Humans suffer. Humans seek ways to find that nostalgia again, leading primarily to their doom. The point of focus is always what God, which God, but I wanted to go into the human creation stories to tell you that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what God or which God, because all of them had the same chaotic and peaceful embodiments of emotions and personalities that we humans also have. The main point of focus should be, well, I don't like to say should, but the main point of focus that should be focused on, that's the only word I could think of today is, and back then, is that the God who created us put their divinity inside of us. And for some reason that may differ upon beliefs, that God that did that needed us. If not, there would be no point for creation of us. The common belief is that no God is like us through modern day practices or religions and through ancient practices and traditions, but the stories heavily contradict the stories that you will get from the gods differing and being nothing like us so much. They are very contradictive if you read the stories, the mythologies, the religions, the traditions that everyone holds. These gods may have been way beyond human comprehension at the time, and they still may be beyond human comprehension today, but I have not read or came across anything that has stated a God basically directly saying that they are nothing like humans. They put the divine essence into humans, making them something like humans. In fact, the highest entity described throughout the stories, for example, the primordial deities that represent chaos or balance, that seem to be symbolisms of pure consciousness, are the only type of beings or entities that don't seem to thrive in human characteristics. And these are described as supreme beings or principles, not really gods. I mean, sometimes they get referenced as gods, but for the most part, they're referenced as the supreme beings. For example, Olodumare in Yoruba, Nun in Egyptian, Chaos in Greek, Amesuchi no Kantan in Shinto, or Ama in Dogon. All of these entities or forms came first, and they basically represent the potential for creation from a formless void, which sounds a lot like consciousness, if you get what I mean. Even in monotheistic religions such as Christianity, but this verse is in relation to all that I'm about to say. From Genesis 1 and 2, the earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God hovered over. So it is not worth getting caught up in what God, which God, when they all seem to derive from the same consciousness in different ways. And this is why we miss the most important part of these stories, these myths that speak of the divineness put inside of us when the first humans were created. The divine breath is already inside of us, but we are constantly looking outwardly to find it. Fighting over what's real, what's fake, what's what's not religion. You got religion against science. You got mythology against science. You got mythology against philosophy. Philosophy against science. Tradition against morality. Morality over religion. Religion over morality. That's just something called fear. It's fear of the unknown. Scared to find out what you don't know. Just sticking with the way that somebody told you was right and moving along with it. Hating and talking negatively about others that aren't like you or that don't believe what you believe in. You're too afraid to ask questions. We are too afraid to ask. We too afraid to ask our own dang on self questions, bruh. Like, that's crazy. You think your consciousness is against you. You're too afraid to find out that you are wrong. You too afraid to find out that you are right. We afraid of everything. It's just fear of the unknown. You would rather just live life fooling yourself until it's time to die. So all this fear you've been living with is just finally over with. I don't have to go through it anymore. I believe what I believed. My tradition is what I force myself to think is the perfect way to live. When it's you never knew. You never knew. Nobody knows what comes next, and this life, it's not crazy to just admit that nobody knows what comes next in this life. It's not crazy to just be okay with that. We don't know yet. We don't know. But maybe you wouldn't even have to, really say that. You wouldn't have to even admit that you have that fear if we weren't constantly fighting about who is right and who is wrong, about some stuff don't nobody even truly know about. Nobody. Until you can collect enough data and run a test to get definite results, you don't know squat. You don't know nothing. But we could all work together to figure the stuff out. Like, seriously, imagine if the 7 billion people on Earth or minds on Earth came together working on the same problem to get to a solution or at least close to some accurate results. I can't guarantee it, but most likely we would figure it out. But you can't even get 7 people to come together and work on something. So, I mean, I don't know. You can't get nobody together to actually work on something without some type of unresolvable chaos coming into play. Like, I'm just saying, I don't know if a billion years ago the world was in the state that it is in today, but what I do know is that we are in the best time as ever to figure this thing out. And that ain't gonna happen unless we can all reach some common ground on wanting to know instead of acting like we know. Or acting like we don't care at all. It ain't just about dying, not knowing anything, it ain't just about that. It's about helping the future. It's about helping the people that's going to come after us, being a part of something to help our civilization advance so the next won't have to suffer in the ways that we do. You're so focused on what God? So focused on which God? That ain't going to cut it. That ain't going to save nobody. How about we start letting them know that they have the same divine essence and that the gods have? How about or the God? How about we start letting the next generation know that if we gonna guide our traditions today into the next generation anyway, let's start pointing focus to that divineness that you have inside of you instead of they're wrong. This is what's right. That's not gonna help nothing. Let's not teach hate anymore. Let's not teach stuff like that anymore. Let's not teach such reverence instead of actually having some type of love for something. You can respect everybody's traditions, respect everybody's ways, respect their stories and respect what they believe. But when it comes down to making sure that next generation or what's coming after you knows that, hey, this is what we believe, this is what they believe, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's not too far off from each other. The most important part is that you have that same divineness inside of you that every God gave to humanity. If you believe in, God in that essence, you have that same divine energy. It's okay to practice traditions, but when it overlaps your thinking process and morality towards your neighbors, and then it becomes detrimental to our society. We are the ones who create meaning. We are the ones who create meaning. When you don't know something, you create meaning to it. So, I just wanted to go into that human creation story to shed a little bit of light on what should be focused on, what's better to be focused on, to take some of that animosity out of anybody's heart who feels it for the next, that doesn't necessarily agree or believe in what they believe as far as their traditions and stuff. How you treat your neighbor is much more important. If we could come together and all work together, we could probably figure this thing out, and we don't have to go around fooling ourselves, trying to make yourself feel good about something because you don't know. I get it. It's scary. It's not crazy to be scared of something that most people hate that happens to their loved ones or others that happen to them. And, that belief that they go to this sacred place that's just going to be way better than this, that's basically a psychological thing that helps you get past whatever you're feeling, but we got to learn to start just dealing with these feelings and have them for what they are, so we can be more conscious as to what's going on, how to fix this, how to solve this. I'm pretty sure if they said, hey, we got a thing now, and you don't have to eat meat anymore. You don't have to. Well, it's still nutrition. You don't really have to kill anything. You don't have to chop a plant. You don't have to. You don't even have to chop a tree to get paper. You don't have to kill the cow. You don't have to kill the chicken. We got this pill, and if you just take this pill, you'll have enough nutrition for your body, or these pills, you'll have enough nutrition for your body to last and be good. Of course, with the right research and the right ingredients and everything perfect about this pill, in this day and time, it wouldn't work, because you have people that say, oh, nope, my traditions, my religion, my philosophies won't allow me to do that, even though it's basically saving the earth, it's saving life, it's saving everything. I like to kill my food. I like to kill my food before I eat it. I like that thing bleeding. You got people like that. No, bro, I ain't finna. I ain't finna try that, bro. I don't know nothing about that, man. I can't be out here eating stuff that the government got out here. You can't trust the government. I get it. I mean, shoot, you can't trust people that don't care about you. But I'm just saying, if a good person came out here and, like I said, the research, the ingredients, everything was done on it to say, okay, you know what I'm saying? We got this medicine now. Basically, you immortal. You can live forever. We have cured every sickness. Oh no, I'm not taking that. That's against my religion. I gotta go to heaven one day. I have to die. If I don't die, this ain't gonna be right. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? You can live forever and figure things out. Rather, you would basically be a god, one of the gods at that point, if they came out with that. immortality is one of the things that separates it. You're not going to be the ultimate, the supreme God, the actual creator for everything, because I don't know. That creator seems like a energy. It seems like an establishment of the ultimate consciousness. I like the Memphite version where Ptah brings everything through thought, because that makes the most sense to me. The whole cosmos coming from the consciousness, our brain, we just walking around, but this is what keeps you going. This, you know what I'm saying? You need every organ in your body, but without this, none of those organs could function. Everything that this is doing is involuntary every day. Every day. So that's what makes the most sense to me, as in reference to God, establishment of the ultimate, the supreme consciousness, that connects all and links everything. But, like I said, if we don't come together and start trying to figure things out as a society, we're always going to be controlled by those people who tell us that this is what you're supposed to do. This is the right way to do it. This is not the right way to do it. Forget your morals, forget your philosophies, forget whatever you're thinking. I don't care what you're thinking about, because that's wrong. That's wrong. You thinking about helping that person when you a Christian and they're atheist, or you're a Muslim and they're a Christian, or you're a Buddhist, or, well, Buddhists don't really go about stuff that way. You know what I'm saying? But if you're, I don't know, if you're of Hindu and that's a Christian or whatever, however you want to look. Hindu is one of the oldest. I don't think they go about it that way either. It's hard to use some religions, but you know what I'm saying? I don't think religion is bad. I don't think having your philosophies together as a collective is bad. I don't think any of that is bad. What I think is bad is, like I said, when it comes detrimental to society and you start to judge others and forget about their character and who they are, and just worry about who they worship or what they what they believe in. And that's what makes them somebody that you can't ever deal with. Like I said, it could be somebody who doesn't believe in anything walking around here. What's wrong with that? That's them. You know what I'm saying? But if that person that don't believe in anything and that person that believes in something can come together and say, hey, I don't really believe that, and that person that does believe say, well, I do. You know what I'm saying? Well, we got to finish this project. You know what I'm saying? We got to finish working on whatever we working on, man. Like, we gotta do this. So let's just do this. That's fine. That doesn't bother me. What I believe in keeps me going. What I don't believe in keeps me going. Hey, kudos. Let's get to work. It's as simple as that. If we're going to do it like that, you don't have to, everybody don't have to believe in the same thing. Everybody don't have to walk around here pretending. Don't none of that have to happen. It's just about treating your neighbor good. Treating your neighbor as somebody that you want to be, well, I don't know. Some people might want to be treated wrong, but just treating your neighbor in a respectful manner, to be able to collaborate and to come together and fix things, and not have to put the next world through everything that we've been going through. Because when you think about it, if you look at the ancients, what happened to them? Like I said, they were all washed away, and they had traditions. And it was cycles of it. It was cycles of being washed away, starting anew. Whether it was it ain't just coming from a flood. It come from wars. It come from mass genocide, all types of stuff. As to why certain traditions, certain religions, some of that stuff is not here anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's to establish basically a power, instead of doing it for, I guess, you're just wrong about. Nobody cares that freaking much. It's about a power. Nobody really cares. I don't like going into stuff that's going to trigger people. But people who do that kind of stuff, the leaders who do that kind of stuff, they don't care about what religion you are, they don't really care that much. It's something that they want. It's some type of power that they are seeking, but that religion can play a part in, the people who can be easily manipulated to say, hey, let's go and kill this whole religious society, or this whole race. Let's do a mass genocide on them because they aren't living right. They are living wrong, and they're gonna make this world bad for us. So let's go handle that. Let's take these people out. They're basically like evil demons almost. Come on. Seriously, you believe that? Like, you can't believe that, but when you get enough people to believe it, and especially enough people in power to believe in it, they start to control other factions of parts of it, and then you get forced. People start to get forced to do this stuff. All right, you 14, come on, you gotta come to this military, and if you don't come to this military, you're going to jail, or we just gonna kill you because you acting like you one of them. You one of them, or you one of us? All right, then, come on. Are we gonna kill your whole family? That's when it becomes that. But that's just from letting it get to that point and going too far. It's a lot more to talk about in this. But I think I'm just going to leave it right there and just remember that you have that divine essence inside of you. We only went through a few mythologies, but all of the mythologies, religions, all of them have divine essence inside of humanity. That means something. That doesn't just, go out in the wind whenever you start thinking about this stuff. That means something. That means that we have the ability to do everything that we read about, that we learn about, that we hear about, stuff that you think is fake. We're doing things that are unbelievable right now. Right now, whether you may be a conspiracist that believes, some people live forever. We a conspiracist. We've been to space. We've never been to space. Some people don't have to eat. There are aliens among us. There are all this. They already said it's aliens among. They released these extraterrestrial documents. If you don't believe that, I don't know what to tell you then. That stuff you can believe is not real, but it's real. The extraterrestrial beings are here. Not even all of this earth is discovered. We haven't even uncovered, I don't know, even 10% of the sea. I don't think. Nobody knows what's in Antarctica. Just too far. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to keep on going on about it. I just want everybody to know that you do have a divine essence inside of you. And we can all draw together to seek out that power and figure out what we can do to come together to stop the turmoil that we go through and get back to a golden age, as Hesiod has described, or in any kind of golden age, whatever. Let's get to the diamond age. Shoot. But just remember, we are the ones who create meaning. I do not have a candle today, but we are working on Obatala candles, and we are working on Quetzalcoatl candles and the Osiris candles. Also, Loki candles will be out soon. You can go check out the blogs and the candles that we do have on Gaia, GAEA, earthclub.com. And with that being said, I'm going to catch y'all on the flip side.